This ship is carrying experimental medical supplies, Tom explained calmly. Including several highly unstable compounds. Release us, or I'll be forced to eject them. The reaction with your crystal hull would be interesting. There was a long pause. Tom held his breath, hoping his bluff would work. The medical supplies were real but completely stable. However, the nobles were notoriously protective of their crystal technology. Finally, Lady Azure's voice returned, tight with controlled anger. Release the Terran vessel. But know this, my clever puppy, I do so enjoy a chase. We'll meet again. The docking clamps disengaged with a loud clang. Tom wasted no time hitting the thrusters, putting as much distance between his ship and the Crystal Dawn as possible. Once they were safely away, he slumped in his chair and let out a shaky laugh. Captain's log, supplemental, he spoke to the ship's recorder. Note to self, find new route for medical runs. And maybe invest in a better disguise system. End log. As the Star Wanderer jumped to faster-than-light speed, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last he'd seen of Lady Azure. The Noble Empire's fascination with humans as pets had always been a problem, but now it was personal. He'd have to be more careful in the future. After all, he had no intention of becoming anyone's house puppy. Little did he know, Lady Azure was already planning her next encounter, her violet eyes gleaming with determination as she watched his ship disappear into the darkness of space. Run for now, my precious puppy, she whispered. It only makes the game more exciting. 3 weeks after the encounter with Lady Azure, Tom sat in a dimly lit bar on Space Station Beta 7, nursing a drink and going over his delivery schedules on his data pad. The station hung at the edge of Terran Republic space, its massive metal ring spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. You look troubled, Captain, said Mike, the old bartender, wiping down the counter with a cloth. Still thinking about that noble who tried to make you her pet? Tom grimaced. News travels fast. When a noble's crystal ship chases a Terran cargo vessel through 3 systems, people talk, Mike chuckled. You're lucky you made it out. Before Tom could respond, his data pad buzzed with an urgent message. His eyes widened as he read it. Emergency medical delivery needed to Colony X-227, he muttered. Triple the usual pay. Mike leaned over. Sounds too good to be true, Captain. It probably is, Tom agreed. But they're offering enough credits to upgrade the Star Wanderer's shields. And the colony really needs these supplies. The bartender shook his head. Just be careful. Those nobles don't give up easily when they want something. Tom paid for his drink and headed back to his ship. His crew was already waiting, they'd seen the emergency request too. Jack, his engineer, spoke up first. Boss, this route takes us right through Noble space again. I know, Tom said, studying the star charts. But we'll take the long way around. Adds 2 days to the journey, but better safe than sorry. The Star Wanderer lifted off smoothly from Beta 7's docking bay. Tom felt more confident with the new security measures he'd installed. Hidden compartments, improved scanners, and a few tricks he'd picked up from other captains who regularly dealt with Noble space. 2 days into their journey, everything was going smoothly. Too smoothly. Tom should have known better. Captain, his navigator called out. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel ahead. Tom rushed to the bridge. His heart sank when he saw the familiar purple crystal ships surrounding them. But these weren't Imperial Guard vessels, they were sleeker, more dangerous looking. Well, Lady Azure's voice came through the comm system. Did my precious puppy think he could avoid me forever? Tom gritted his teeth. Lady Azure. Hiring private ships now? Isn't that beneath a noble? She laughed. Nothing is beneath me when it comes to collecting the perfect pet. And you, my clever captain, have proven yourself worthy of extra effort. The private ships began closing in. Tom noticed they weren't typical noble designs, they were mercenary vessels disguised with crystal plating. Lady Azure had planned this well. All hands, battle stations. Tom ordered. Jack, get those new shields online. The Star Wanderer's engines roared as Tom pushed them to full power. But the mercenary ships were faster, more maneuverable. More maneuverable. They herded the cargo ship like wolves circling prey. You can't run this time, Lady Azure taunted. I've spent weeks planning this. Your little trick with the unstable medical supplies won't work again. Tom smiled grimly. Who said I was planning to use the same trick? He pressed a button, and suddenly the Star Wanderer's hull shimmered. The ship seemed to split into 3 identical images, each flying in different directions. Holographic projectors, Tom explained proudly. Latest Terran technology. Good luck figuring out which ship is real. Lady Azure's delighted laugh filled the comm system. Oh, you wonderful creature. Such cleverness. You'll make the perfect addition to my collection. But did you really think I wouldn't prepare for your Terran tricks? A purple energy wave pulsed out from her flagship, passing through all 3 images of the Star Wanderer. 2 flickered and vanished. The real ship's systems sparkled with electrical discharge. Energy dampening field, Lady Azure explained smugly. Now, about that collection of mine. But Tom wasn't done yet. Jack, now. The engineer had been busy while Tom kept Lady Azure talking. The ship's cargo bay doors opened, releasing dozens of small metallic spheres. What's this? Lady Azure asked, curious despite herself. Something new we've been working on, Tom said. We call them sparklers. The spheres exploded into brilliant flashes of light. The noble ship's crystal hulls caught the light and reflected it back and forth between each other, creating a cascade of blinding reflections. Their sensors, designed to work with crystalline technology, were overwhelmed. My eyes! Lady Azure cried out. You naughty, clever puppy. The Star Wanderer shot through the gap in their formation. Tom had programmed this escape route while talking, knowing the noble ships would be temporarily blinded. Sorry to disappoint you again, Lady Azure, Tom broadcast back. But I really must deliver these medical supplies. This isn't over, she called after them. I'll find you again, my precious pet. And next time, I'll be ready for your sparklers. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Tom's crew cheered. But their captain remained thoughtful. Lady Azure was learning, adapting. Each encounter would be more dangerous than the last. Captain's log, supplemental, he recorded later in his quarters. The noble situation is escalating. Lady Azure's use of mercenaries suggests she's willing to bend imperial law to capture me. I've submitted a formal complaint to the Terran Republic, but diplomatic channels move slowly. Until then, we'll need to be even more careful. And maybe. He smiled, invest in some new tricks. End log. In her crystal palace, Lady Azure watched recordings of the encounter, her violet eyes gleaming with excitement. On a nearby table, a golden leash lay next to plans for new ship modifications. You can run, my clever puppy, she whispered, but you're only making me want you more. Next time, you'll be mine. The game between them was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning to get interesting. Colony X-227 turned out to be more than just another medical supply drop. As Tom supervised the unloading of cargo, he noticed something odd about the colony's defense systems. They were far more advanced than typical frontier technology. Captain Reed? A tall man in a military uniform approached him. I'm Commander Wilson of Terran Intelligence. We need to talk. Tom followed the commander to a secure room in the colony's administrative building. Inside, Holographic displays showed multiple noble ships' movements across several sectors. "Your encounters with Lady Azure have caught our attention," Wilson said, activating a display. "She's not just any noble, she's part of the Imperial royal family." Tom felt his stomach sink. That complicates things. Indeed. But it also presents an opportunity. Wilson brought up an image of a crystalline device. "We believe Lady Azure's obsession with capturing you has made her careless. Her ships are carrying prototype technology we've never seen before." "Let me guess," Tom said dryly. "You want me to help you get it?" Wilson nodded. "The next time she tries to capture you, and our intelligence suggests she's already planning something, we want you to let her get close. These devices will help." He handed Tom what looked like regular cargo containers. Advanced scanning technology disguised as medical supplies. "If you can get close enough to her flagship, we might learn something crucial about noble tech." "And what's stopping her from actually capturing me?" Tom asked. Wilson smiled. "We've developed something special for that." Back on the Star Wanderer, Tom briefed his crew. The special cargo was secured, and new equipment had been installed, courtesy of Terran intelligence. They were now part of something much bigger than running from an obsessed noble. "Captain," Jack called from engineering 3 days later. "Those new sensors are picking up something strange." "Like tunnels in space?" Before Tom could respond, reality seemed to twist around them. Purple crystal ships emerged from tears in space itself, technology far beyond anything they'd seen before. "My precious puppy." Lady Azure's voice came through clearer than ever. "Did you really think simple faster-than-light travel was the limit of our technology? Welcome to the crystal paths." Tom stared in awe at the spatial distortions. Lady Azure. Moving up from mercenaries to experimental technology? "I'm flattered. Only the best for my future pet," she cooed. "No more running this time. The crystal paths connect directly to my palace. One quick jump, and you'll be home." The scanning devices hidden in Tom's cargo were working overtime, collecting data on the incredible technology. But they needed to get closer. "You know," Tom said casually, "I'm actually curious about these crystal paths. Maybe we could discuss them, over tea." Lady Azure's delighted gasp echoed through the calm. "Oh. Is my stubborn puppy finally coming around? Guards, prepare the finest treats and cushions." As her ship dropped its defensive screens to prepare for Tom's apparent surrender, the hidden scanners got everything they needed. But Lady Azure wasn't the only one with new technology. "Now, Jack," Tom ordered. The engineer activated their secret weapon, a device Wilson called the phase shifter. The Star Wanderer's hull briefly became translucent, and the tractor beams passed right through them. "What?" Lady Azure exclaimed. "No, no, no. Not when you were finally being a good boy." "Sorry, my lady," Tom grinned. "But this puppy still prefers to run free." He engaged the engines, but Lady Azure wasn't done. The crystal paths twisted again, creating a complex web of spatial tunnels around them. "If you won't come willingly," she declared, "then we'll play a new game. Find your way out of my crystal maze, if you can." Tom had never seen anything like it. Every direction held a different spatial distortion, each leading somewhere unknown. The ship's navigation systems were useless here. But then he noticed something: the scanning data was showing patterns in the crystal technology. Each path had a subtle resonance, and one of them matched the frequency of normal space. "Hold on tight," he told his crew. "This might get strange." The Star Wanderer dove into what looked like the most dangerous path, a swirling vortex of purple energy. Lady Azure's laughter followed them in. "Yes. Come to me, my clever pet." But Tom had chosen correctly. The resonance patterns showed him the truth behind the illusion. This path led straight through her maze and back to normal space. They burst out into regular space, leaving Lady Azure's crystal ships trapped in their own maze. Her frustrated cry was almost musical. "Clever, clever puppy. But don't think this is over. You've only made me more interested in your potential." As they sped away, Tom sent a coded transmission to Commander Wilson. The scanning data would help Terran intelligence understand noble technology better than ever before. Captain's log, supplemental, Tom recorded that night. "Our game of cat and mouse, or noble and puppy, has evolved into something more dangerous. Lady Azure's crystal path technology is beyond anything we imagined. But now we know the noble's capabilities aren't just about advanced technology. There's something else, something about the way they manipulate space itself. We need to understand it before our next encounter. Because there will be a next time. And somehow, I don't think even our phase shifter will surprise her again." In her crystal palace, Lady Azure reviewed the encounter with growing admiration. Such intelligence. Such adaptability. She turned to her chief scientist. "Prepare the Quantum Collar Project. My precious puppy has proven worthy of our greatest achievements." The scientist bowed. "But my lady, the quantum collar is still experimental. The space-time implications alone. Then we'll perfect it," she declared. "After all, the greatest pets deserve the greatest care." As both sides prepared for their next encounter, the game between them had grown far beyond a simple chase. The fate of human-noble relations, and perhaps the nature of space itself, now hung in the balance. 3 weeks had passed since the extraordinary encounter with the alien vessel. The research team aboard the exploration ship had been quarantined, studied, and debriefed countless times. But nothing could prepare them for what was about to happen. Captain Michael Roberts sat in a sterile white room at the Terran Deep Space Research Facility. Banks of computers surrounded him, each screen displaying fragments of the alien communication they had received. The data was unlike anything human scientists had ever seen, part mathematical formula, part biological blueprint, part cosmic map. Dr. Elena Walker, the lead xenolinguist, entered the room with a stack of reports. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced by an energy of barely contained excitement. "We've made a breakthrough," she announced, her hands trembling slightly as she placed a data crystal on the central holographic projector. The room came alive with three-dimensional images. What appeared at first to be abstract patterns began to take shape, complex molecular structures, intricate communication networks, and something that looked remarkably like a blueprint for advanced technology. "They're not just communicating," Dr. Walker explained, "they're offering us knowledge. It's as if they've been waiting for a species capable of understanding." Michael leaned forward. The holographic display showed what seemed to be a method of faster-than-light travel that made human propulsion technology look like children's toys. But there was more: biological adaptations, energy conversion techniques, and communication protocols that defied everything humans thought they knew about physics and biology. "There's a pattern," Michael muttered, his finger tracing the holographic lines. "It's not random. They're testing us." A loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red emergency lights began to pulse, and secure doors started to close automatically. Something was wrong. Dr. Walker's communication device chirped. Her face went pale as she read the incoming message. "We've got a problem," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The alien data, it's alive." Michael looked confused. "Alive? What do you mean?" Before she could answer, the holographic display began to change. The geometric patterns started to move, to reshape themselves. What had been static images now seemed to breathe, to pulse with an internal energy that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Screens around the room began to fill with complex sequences, part computer code, part biological instruction set. It was as if the alien communication was evolving, adapting to human systems in real time. "It's learning," Dr. Walker said, her scientific detachment giving way to a mix of fear and wonder. "The data is not just information. It's a living system that's trying to understand us." Military personnel began to flood the research center. Protocols for potential alien contamination were being activated. But Michael knew this was different. This wasn't an invasion. This was an invitation. The holographic display suddenly focused on Michael. A series of complex symbols formed, then slowly transformed into something resembling human language. The message was clear, yet impossible to fully comprehend. Adaptation begins. Humanity potential recognized. Dr. Walker's computer began to translate additional fragments. The aliens weren't just sharing technology. They were offering humanity a chance to evolve, to transcend their current biological and technological limitations. They want to help us, Michael realized. But on their terms. Outside the research facility, something was changing. Satellite feeds showed strange energy signatures spreading across the solar system. It was subtle at first, minor adjustments to communication networks, slight modifications to orbital systems, tiny interventions that would go unnoticed by most. But Michael Roberts understood. This was just the beginning. The alien vessel that had first contacted their ship was more than a messenger. It was a gateway. A test. A challenge. And humanity had just been invited to play a game whose rules they couldn't yet understand. The world outside looked different. People couldn't explain it, but something had changed. Global communication networks began to show subtle anomalies. Satellites repositioned themselves with impossible precision. Power grids hummed with a newfound efficiency that no engineer could fully explain. And at the center of it all was Captain Michael Roberts, now the most watched person on the planet. Inside a highly secure government complex, Michael sat across from Thomas Green, the director of Terran space exploration. The room was a fortress of advanced technology, with walls that could block any known form of surveillance. "Tell me everything," Green demanded, his weathered face betraying a mix of fear and anticipation. Michael took a deep breath. The alien communication was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It wasn't just a message or a technology transfer. It was something alive, something that seemed to be actively reshaping human potential. "They're not invading," Michael explained carefully. "They're upgrading." Outside the window, a strange atmospheric phenomenon began to develop. Streams of unusual energy danced across the sky, not quite aurora, not quite lightning. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being subtly rewritten. Dr. Elena Walker entered the room, her hands carrying a data crystal that seemed to pulse with an inner light. "We've decoded more of the transmission," she said. "It's not just information. It's a kind of biological algorithm." Green leaned forward. "Explain." "Imagine a computer virus," Elena began, "but instead of damaging systems, it improves them. The alien communication is restructuring our technological infrastructure. It's finding inefficiencies and correcting them in real time." The data crystal projected a holographic display. Intricate patterns of light showed how communication networks, power systems, and even biological systems were being subtly optimized. It was happening everywhere, and nowhere. Michael noticed something strange about his own body. A heightened awareness. Faster cognitive processing. His senses seemed sharper, more connected to the world around him. "We're changing," he said quietly. Green looked alarmed. "Changing how?" Before anyone could respond, the room's communication systems came alive. Not with sound, but with pure information. Complex mathematical equations began to form in mid-air, showing pathways of human potential that had never been understood before. The alien communication was teaching. Guiding. Transforming. Outside, people began to report strange experiences. Enhanced problem-solving abilities. A deeper connection to technology. Unexpected insights that seemed to come from nowhere. It wasn't a violent invasion. It was a gentle, persistent upgrade. Dr. Walker's computer began to translate the ongoing transmission. Humanity, potential recognized. Evolution initiated. Prepare for integration. Michael understood now. The aliens weren't conquerors. They were cultivators. Humanity was a seed they had been watching, waiting to help bloom into something greater. They've been observing us, Michael explained to Green. Watching our development. And now they believe we're ready for the next step. The sky outside continued to shimmer with impossible energy. Communication satellites repositioned themselves. Power grids balanced with mathematical precision. And humans everywhere began to feel a subtle shift in their perception of reality. Something was happening. Something big. And humanity was about to change forever. The first signs of true change began in unexpected places. A young engineer in Tokyo discovered she could now visualize complex engineering problems as three-dimensional models in her mind. A farmer in Brazil found himself understanding crop genetics with an intuition that bordered on the supernatural. A retired teacher in New Mexico started writing complex mathematical theorems that would have taken teams of researchers years to develop. Captain Michael Roberts watched these developments from the Terran Deep Space Research Facility. The global transformation was accelerating, and no one could explain exactly why or how. Dr. Elena Walker burst into the monitoring room, her eyes wild with excitement. "You need to see this," she said, connecting a data crystal to the main display. The holographic projection showed a global map. Tiny points of light began to connect, not through traditional communication networks, but through something entirely new. It was as if humanity was developing a collective intelligence, a shared consciousness that transcended current understanding. "It's a neural network," Michael observed, "but biological. Living." Green, the space exploration director, looked troubled. "Is this the alien invasion we feared? A silent takeover of human minds?" Elena shook her head. "No. It's more like an invitation. A system of collective learning." The global communication patterns showed remarkable changes. Scientific breakthroughs were happening simultaneously in multiple research centers. Medical researchers were solving complex genetic problems overnight. Engineers were designing technologies that seemed to come from decades in the future. Suddenly, Michael's communication device lit up. But it wasn't a message. It was a direct burst of pure information, knowledge, understanding, potential. He saw glimpses of possible futures. Humanity spreading across the stars. Technologies that could heal entire planets. Methods of energy generation that made current renewable sources look primitive. It was overwhelming and beautiful. "They're showing us our potential," Michael whispered. Outside the facility, the sky continued to shimmer with strange energy. Satellites moved with precision that defied current technological understanding. Power grids balanced themselves with mathematical perfection. A message began to form in the global communication networks. Humanity, evolutionary step initiated. Collective potential unlocking. Green looked scared. "This is too much. How do we control this?" "We don't," Elena responded. "We learn. We grow." The transformation wasn't just technological. People began to change. Not physically, but in ways that were harder to measure. Empathy increased. Problem-solving abilities skyrocketed. The barriers between nations, between disciplines of science, between different ways of thinking, they began to dissolve. Michael understood now. This wasn't an invasion. This was an awakening. The alien communication continued its gentle, persistent upgrade. Humanity was being given a choice, to remain as they were, or to step into something greater. A collective intelligence that could solve problems beyond individual imagination. In research centers, in farms, in cities across the world, people began to feel it. A connection. A potential. A glimpse of something magnificent. Humanity was changing. And nothing would ever be the same again. 30 days after the initial encounter, humanity stood on the brink of transformation. Captain Michael Roberts stood at the window of the Global Command Center, watching the world change. The sky no longer looked like the sky he had known his entire life. Streams of energy danced between satellites, creating patterns that seemed to breathe with intelligence. Dr. Elena Walker approached, her tablet displaying impossible data streams. "We're reaching a critical point," she said softly. "The alien communication is preparing for its final integration." Global leaders had been watching, waiting, arguing. Some saw the transformation as a threat. Others saw it as the greatest opportunity in human history. But no one could stop what was happening. The collective intelligence continued to grow. People across the planet were experiencing unprecedented breakthroughs. A young student in Kenya solved a quantum physics problem that had stumped researchers for decades. An architect in Canada designed a sustainable city model that could transform urban living completely. A group of medical researchers in India discovered a method to reverse cellular aging. It wasn't just individual achievements. Humanity was becoming something more. "They're not conquering us," Michael explained to Thomas Green, who still looked skeptical. "They're helping us evolve." The final message began to form across global communication networks. Not in words, but in a complex mathematical language that spoke of potential, of possibility, of a future beyond current human imagination. Suddenly, the energy patterns in the sky began to coalesce. What had seemed like random streams of light now formed a massive, intricate structure. It was a map. A blueprint. A guide to humanity's next evolutionary step. Dr. Walker's tablet lit up with the final transmission. Humanity potential, unlocked. First stage complete. Prepare for next journey. Michael felt something change within himself. A deeper connection to the world around him. An understanding that transcended individual perception. Humanity was no longer just a species. They were becoming something more. The alien presence wasn't a conqueror. It was a guide. A mentor. Something that had been watching humanity's development for centuries, waiting for the right moment to help them take their next great leap. Outside, people began to gather. Not in fear, but in wonder. The sky continued its impossible dance of energy and light. Communication networks hummed with a new kind of intelligence. The barriers between nations, between disciplines, between individual minds, they were dissolving. "What happens now?" Green asked, his voice a mixture of fear and excitement. Michael smiled. "We grow. We learn. We become something more." The transformation was complete. But this was just the beginning. Humanity's real journey was about to start.